I know I'm not alone here in saying that I really don't care about this year's NBA Finals. Because it's Cavs versus Warriors 4. But this time it counts. It's just a problem with the NBA. Is that the regular season really doesn't matter. To get to the playoffs, where frankly most of the series don't matter, because there are maybe only 3 or 4 teams that actually matter, and until those teams face off in the playoffs, nothing else matters. And lo and behold, what do you know? That's exactly how things played out this year. So you spend months wasting time to get to the inevitability of Cavs Warriors 4. And not only looking at this from a standpoint of Cavs Warriors for the 4th straight year in the NBA Finals, but looking at it as last year these two teams met. The Cavs were a better team last year on paper and in terms of name talent, and they got destroyed by the Warriors in the finals, who would pretty much have their core intact again. And that is absolutely true. So you look at it and you say, now, coming back again, LeBron's got a worse supporting cast around him. The Warriors are the same. Why in the hell would this be anything other than another one-sided domination by the Warriors in the finals? And if anything, why wouldn't they just sweep the Cavaliers? Because, oh my God, LeBron has absolutely nothing around him. The Warriors are the same. Yeah, the Warriors struggled against the Rockets, but they still ultimately beat them, including winning the last 2 games on the road, and skip and whoop-de-woo. And you hear a lot of people, specifically the sports media, talking about how there's no chance for the Cavs here. Like, there's that hope and desire for LeBron to make it competitive and LeBron to win a couple of games, and maybe the ultimate fantasy of him winning the NBA Finals against this Warriors team, so that way he can further advance the LeBron is the GOAT narrative and all this. But, most of the media is not buying it, and I don't think a lot of fans are buying it either. Because you look at it, and just on the surface you say, they have no chance. What the hell can the Cavs do to contend against this Warriors team? How the hell are the Warriors not going to be able to just steamroll the Cavs? And honestly, if you take an initial glance at it, you're absolutely right. You feel like, in theory, the Celtics could have matched up better against the Warriors, or if the Cavs would have faced the Rockets, maybe that would have been a more competitive final series. But I say, hold on just a second. Hold on just a second. We're being a little too dismissive here of LeBron and the Cavaliers, and perhaps pumping up the Warriors a little too full of smoke. Because yes, while the Warriors are the defending NBA champions, this is also a Warriors team that just was taken to 7 games by the Houston Rockets, who were primarily 2 stars with Harden and Chris Paul, an up-and-coming player like Clint Capella, a solid player in Eric Gordon, and a bunch of other role players. And in Game 6 and 7, after the Rockets, mind you, were up 3-2 in the series because Porcelain Paul strained his hamstring and had to miss the last 2 games, that was the only way the Warriors won that series. And even in that case, they were down big in Game 6 in the first half before they exploded in the third quarter. They turned around in Game 7 and they were down big again until they came out again and exploded in the third quarter. And mind you, the Rockets had to miss 27 consecutive threes, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league, with especially the high volume of shots that they take from beyond the arc. And the Warriors still barely won Game 7 on the road. Yes, the Warriors are the defending champions. Yes, they've still got everybody. Yes, I know Iguodala was out the last few games of that Rocket series, but we're talking about one dude and a role player. Give me a fucking break. Let's not make too many excuses for them here. But let's not just crown the Warriors' asses just yet. Because, in fact, I believe there's a path for the Cavs where they can beat the Warriors in this series. And I'm not saying this to be contrarian or different. I'm saying this because I believe it to be true. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying they can, which is giving them a lot more credit than a lot of fans and a lot of the sports talk people and sports media are giving them right now. And I see 6 ways that this can happen. And all 6 of these things pretty much have to happen. But they could. How likely that is? We'll find out starting Thursday night. But here are my 6 ways the Cavs can beat the Warriors in the 2018 NBA Finals. Number 1, LeBron James has to dominate. When you look back at 2016 when the Warriors were up 3-1 and the Cavs came storming back and they won. You can talk about Draymond Green suspension, all this other crap. But in the 4 wins in that series, LeBron James averaged about 35 points a game, and I think he was a little bit over 10 rebounds and like 9 assists. He's going to have to put up a similar stat line this go-round. And that's how the Cavs are constructed. They're more reliant on LeBron than they ever have been before. LeBron has to play big, and he has been big in the playoffs this year. To me, he has been the best that he ever has been, and I think it's ridiculous to say that he's not the best he ever has been, because his playoff performance most certainly indicates he's the best player he ever has been, the most dominant he has ever been, especially from an offensive standpoint. For God's sakes, he found a fadeaway. But he has to dominate. He has to be that dude consistently for them. He has to average 35 points a game. He has to be double-digit rebounds, especially when eventually maybe Iguodala comes back in the series at some point and they go to their lineup of death, they're going to need LeBron to be able to hit the glass. And they're still going to need him to facilitate. They're not going to need him to be too differential, not going to be too passive, not going to be too unselfish. They're going to need him to be selfish first, but at times be able to get others involved. But 8 to 9 assists a game. And I don't say that to be dismissive, because that would be an incredible performance by LeBron in the NBA Finals if he did that. But, frankly, all this other stuff I'm going to talk about, if LeBron doesn't dominate, none of it matters. He has to dominate in this series, period. 35, 10, and 8 would be a good way to start. Number 2, the Cavs have to slow the pace down. Last year was so idiotic and ridiculous. Them trying to run up and down the court with the Warriors and trying to shoot with the Warriors and score with the Warriors. That's why Ty Lue, yes, he's got an NBA title, but you can win a championship and still do moronic things. That was a moronic thing they did from a stylistic standpoint last year. You just didn't have the Jimmys and Joes and the horsepower to be able to do what the Warriors do and do it at their level. So don't even bother trying. Running with them last year was stupid. And the Rockets you look at this year in the Western Conference Finals, and I will reference their performance a couple of times because you can learn from the good things they did and the mistakes that they did. But one of the good things they did was they did slow the Warriors down a little bit. And it really disrupted the Warriors and their offensive rhythm, which is critical. They are very much a rhythm team, very much a ball movement team. Well, you slow them down like the Rockets did, and you minimize possessions, you give yourself a better chance. And when you look at slowing the pace down, the way the Cavaliers are constructed, with the lack of talent around LeBron, it sets up perfectly to run lots of isolation with LeBron and working the clock and working off of him and limiting the possessions that the Warriors get. The fewer opportunities the Warriors have, the fewer opportunities they have to score. And the tighter you make it, the longer you can make it, the better chance you have. The Cavaliers must absolutely slow this pace down. If they try to run with them, they could get swept. Number 3, they got to play the Warriors straight up. And what I mean is you've got to try to force them into isolation ball. The Rockets were really successful doing just that, especially with Durant. When Durant started to become a little too ball dominant and a little too isolation, it really disrupted the timing and the rhythm and the flow of the Warriors' offense, and they struggled as a result. And in this case, the best way the Cavs can do that is by avoiding double teaming, especially off the dribble drive. Don't do that, because if you do that, you start collapsing on the double team, you start collapsing with your help defense, then the Warriors are going to find the open guy on the perimeter, and they're going to eventually start raining down threes on your asses. It's better to give up some easy looks, it's better to give up some easy twos than those momentum-gaining, back-breaking threes that the Warriors love to hit in your face. Now, the perception is that the Warriors are just solely a three-point shooting team. They like to hit the mid-range shot quite a bit, actually, but what really drives them from a momentum standpoint, it's not great defense, it's not the spectacular slam dunk, it's not blowing by somebody on a crossover. It's Curry, it's Clay, it's those guys getting hot from three and draining a few in your face no matter what your defense does. Well, don't let them get open like that. Make it as difficult for them as possible. And if that means you give up points on the drive to somebody like a Kevin Durant, a Draymond Green, an Iguodala, or even a Curry or a Thompson, then you got to live with that. because it makes it harder for the Warriors because they're not going to be able to put up as many threes on you, and they're not going to get the same type of confidence and momentum that they usually get when you do try to double off and help and all of that. Stay away from that. Play them straight up. Sometimes you'll get burned, but long term, it'll be the best thing for them. Number 4, Tristan Thompson and Kevin Love have to hit this glass in this series. They have to. When you go back and look at Game 3 and 4 against Boston, the two guys, Thompson and Love, had a combined 21 rebounds. If I recall correctly, they blew out the Celtics in that game. Game 4, 23 combined rebounds, and they won relatively easily in Game 4. You go back to the 2016 finals and the 4 games that the Cavs won to ultimately win that series, to win that championship. In Game 3, Tristan Thompson had 13 rebounds. He had 15 of them in Game 5, 16 of them in Game 6, and then Kevin Love was great on the glass in Game 7. He had 14 rebounds. You see a trend here when one of them gets something off the glass, especially with LeBron, with his high rebound totals. If they can get Thompson or Kevin Love to give them something down low, specifically on the offensive and defensive glass, it really, really helps them and forces the Warriors to try and collapse to get the rebound. Tristan Thompson and or Kevin Love has to be big this series on the glass along with LeBron James, and if they are, they've got an absolute chance. Number 5, and this is another big lesson learned from the Rockets series for the Warriors, you've got to attack Steph Curry in the pick and roll game. They did a magnificent job, the Rockets did, of whoever Steph was defending, you're going to use him to screen the ball handler, the facilitator. The Rockets showed you that blueprint of how to attack the Warriors and disrupt the integrity of their defense. Attack Curry in the screen roll. Attack Curry in the pick and roll game. Whoever Curry is guarding in this series, more often than not, you should be initiating your offense by trying to run Curry's guy to screen for LeBron. I don't give a damn if it's Tristan Thompson or Kevin Love that they try to hide Steph Curry on, more specifically Tristan Thompson, or it's somebody like Kyle Korver or J.R. Smith. Whoever the F it is, they need to get their effing ass over there and screen for LeBron in the pick and roll. The Rockets showed you that can work, and it really disrupted the Warriors' defense, and I feel like also impacted their offensive game a little bit too. If you can attack Curry, you have a chance. The Cavs can attack Curry, they can have a chance. And then most importantly of all, I feel like come Thursday night, they've got to win Game 1 on the road. Now, if they won Game 2, sure, that would still be splitting the first 2 games. They would go back home. They technically, at that point in time, would have a series, and they would have home court advantage because they would have split the first 2 on the road against the Warriors. But when you look at it, the Warriors are vulnerable at home this year. They lost 2 games in the Western Conference Finals to the Rockets at home. For a team like the Warriors, that should never happen. But they lost not once but twice on the road. And you could say, well, the Rockets are a better team. Yeah, that's true. But you also look at the Warriors. They showed a bad habit against a pretty good team like the Houston Rockets of taking a while to get into the flow and rhythm of the game and having trouble getting motivated and getting focused and playing at a high level, thinking they could just automatically turn on the switch. And to be fair, when it mattered, they were able to. But that was also against a Rockets team that didn't have Porcelain Chris Paul the last 2 games of the series. You attack them here in Game 1, where the Warriors are a little uncertain of themselves. You attack the Warriors in Game 1, where they maybe are looking at it and saying, hey, we've beaten the Cavs twice already in 3 years, and we owned them last year. Their team's worse this year. We got the same cats, man. We'll be able to steamroll them this year. You're able to jump on them early in Game 1 by slowing that pace down, playing them straight up defensively, having Tristan Thompson and or Kevin Love hit the glass along with LeBron James, and you can attack Steph Curry consistently in the pick and roll game. Game 1 can be had for this Cavaliers team. And it would give them a tremendous amount of confidence for the rest of the series that, hey, even if you won Game 2 in Golden State, or lose Game 2 at Golden State, you win Game 1, you're still 1-1. You've still technically now got the home court advantage, and you're going home to Cleveland for the next 2 games. His team starts to think and buy in and believe the fact that they have a chance to win this series. And if you can win one of the first 2 on the road, you have a chance. You absolutely have a chance. So I look at this, and I'm like, yeah, the Warriors have the same guys for the most part, but they don't look the same this year. And they've had trouble getting focused and getting up for teams, especially when they know the teams are lesser than them. Well, they're going to go into this knowing the Cavs are lesser than them, but also knowing and understanding that the Cavs are familiar with them too. And they've got the best player on the planet in LeBron James. And they have the ability to slow this team down. And if they can rebound, if they can stay disciplined on defense and not overcommit with double teams and collapse and so forth, and they effectively attack Steph Curry in the pick and roll, the Cavs can win this series. Now, if you had to put a gun to my head, I would probably still say Warriors in 6. But I think everybody's too quick. You look at Vegas, I think the Cavs are like 12.5 point dogs in game 1. The odds on the Cavs winning is something like 10-1 for an NBA Finals. That's like record-setting territory. That's insane to me. That's absolutely insane. Yes, I understand why the Warriors are the favorite. Yes, the Warriors should be the favorite. But 10-1 favorites? That's a little bit too carried away. And when you get to a point where you're talking about a team led by an all-time great player like LeBron James being 10-1 underdogs to win a series, that's a powerful motivational tool for that Cleveland team. And you can talk about how bad that team is and everything like that. Hey, you do the right thing stylistically from a systemic standpoint, and you've absolutely got a chance. The Cavs have a chance. Say it with me. Even though you probably don't believe me, the Cleveland Cavaliers have a chance. And not only a chance, a much better chance to make this series competitive and potentially win this final series than they're being given credit for. And I've just told you some of the reasons how it can happen and why.